Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I have another golf ball review for you today, and we are diving into a Srixon golf ball. Srixon being one of my favorite golf ball brands to review on the channel, but this time we are coming in with the Q Star, just the regular Q Star this time. Let's dive in. Okay, so as I said, I love Srixon golf balls, and I think so far I've pretty much tested every golf ball they offer except this one. I think this is actually going to complete the Srixon collection. I did the soft feel a while back, which was really awesome. I've done their tour line from front to back. Now there are some updated ones I need to do on the tour line because they do come out with a new one every year, every 2 years or so. So I haven't done the new updates, but I have at least tested them in the past. I've done as well as the diamond. So yeah, and all of them have tested pretty good to some degree. They actually made the third best golf company on my top 5 golf ball manufacturers list. So I love Srixon. I really do. They offer great value, and most of the time their golf balls perform really, really well. Now, diving into the actual Q Star, the Q Star Tour is actually one of my favorite golf balls out there, especially the Divide model. I love that golf ball. I'll game with it quite a bit during the year. Now, as far as the soft feel, that one tested really good too, and this one's actually going to be in the middle of those. It actually comes in at a price point of $27.99 a dozen, which for a 2-piece iometer golf ball does feel a little high. Now, Srixon does promise this to be more of a premium 2-piece golf ball iometer, but that's kind of, jargon. It's kind of like when someone tells you that something's freeze frozen opposed to, not fresh, or it's either fresh or it's not. You know what I mean? It's silly. And like I said, being at this price point, it's not a great price point. There's a lot of golf balls in this range. For a few extra dollars, you could actually get the Snell MTB Prime, or you could get the Snell Get Some for a little less. There's actually a lot of 2-piece golf balls you could get in the $19.99 to $25 range. So this being a 2-piece iometer at $28, boy, it's going to have to really perform well. Not too many 2-piece golf balls get into that $28, $29 range. I've seen a couple, but not many. It's a pretty high price point for it. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the design of the golf ball here. Looking at the front, you have Srixon's basic logo. There's nothing really unique here at all. This is just the basic black Srixon logo, the black number, nothing to that at all. Dimple pattern is pretty basic. You can tell it definitely feels a little cheap. It doesn't feel like a premium iometer, it just feels like iometer, so I don't know what the difference would be between the two. But it just feels like your normal 2-piece golf ball, which isn't always a bad thing, but there's nothing here really unique. Then if you go on the side there, it does have a decent alignment tool. It's a nice thick black line. It's not obviously the best one they're offering now, but it's not just the letters Q Star. It's actually a thick black line, so you are going to be able to line your golf ball up with it, which is a good thing. So that's awesome. So at least it has one. It's a passing grade. Overall, the design is pretty basic, and what makes the Q Star Divide, the Q Star Tour Divide, so cool is it has such a unique look to it. It has such a unique alignment aid. It does, it gets some attention out on the course, and that might not be your thing, but there's a lot of competition now. So standing out here and there in little subtle ways helps. Even sometimes the dimple pattern being changed a little bit. But overall, hey, the numbers are what's going to be most important here. Average on this. Let's go ahead and get out to the chipping and putting green, and let's see how we did out there. A little left. Yeah, a lot of release. That's what I figured. All right, I've gone too far the first couple times, so now I'm going to kind of come back here in the grass and maybe see if I can get it a little closer. And then I mishit it a little bit, actually distance-wise. So I pulled it left way too much, but as far as distance-wise, that wasn't bad. I'm going to try it one more time. Okay, so interesting. You'll notice my first couple of shots there was actually really long, way past the hole. This golf ball has a lot of spring to it, which is pretty common for a 2-piece golf ball. Has a little bit of the bouncy ball effect, comes off the club real hot, but I was surprised how heavy the golf ball felt with the wedge around the green. It's not a lot, but it is a little bit, and I will say that because it has so much ball speed, it actually just ends up kind of evening itself out and ironing itself out, pun intended. But overall, it actually feels pretty good. It feels really soft, really squishy. It does make a click though, so if the click is going to bother you, it's there. It's not super loud, but it's definitely there. But overall, kind of okay. A little different than I probably would have guessed coming in, but it's not bad. Oh, that's too much. Hit it. Oh! So The heaviness that I just talked about with the wedge actually shows itself pretty heavy on the putter. After putting it a couple times, I immediately noticed how it just feels heavier. It feels like it weighs twice as much as any other golf ball, which isn't the case, but boy, it feels that way, which, is that a bad thing? Not necessarily. I mean, around the green, everything's kind of preference anyway. There's really no right or wrong. As long as the golf ball rolls true and goes in the hole when you're done with it, it's fine. But I will say that that's probably going to turn some people off. If you're coming from a different golf ball and you're used to a little lighter, more fluffier two-piece, and then you hit this one, it's going to throw you off at first. It might take a little learning curve getting used to, but overall the roll was really true. It felt really good. It had a little slight click, slight press for the feedback, so that all checked out really good. Overall, around the green, it was pretty decent. It's different, and so I don't know if everyone's going to take to it immediately, but the performance overall has a passing grade. So I talked about it already. You know, golf ball, it does feel pretty soft. It definitely doesn't feel as soft as the soft feel. It's definitely in the middle of that. I would say it actually feels more like the Q-Star Tour. You can tell that the Tour may be a little bit different just because that three-piece, you're going to feel a little bit different, but it's definitely a lot closer to that than it is the soft feel. Let's go ahead and dive into these numbers now. Let's see how we did. I hope they're really good. 9-iron, 92.2 mile per hour on your ball speed, which is actually, that's pretty good. That's above average. Then we got 128.1, gain 3 yards, 2.5 actually, excuse me. 121.8, which is good, and then 25.2, that's actually a high launch. So all those numbers are awesome right off the bat. It's really compressing well, getting some great distance, getting up in the air, which is nice too. It's another thing that beginners, intermediates are going to want from a golf ball. Not enough to justify the price point yet, but really good start. I'd like to see that, so let's dive into the 7 now. Let's make sure we're still doing a good job of compressing it there. Now, starting off with the spin, you'll see 6,595. That is above my average. One of the biggest things I get on my channel all the time is, hey, I want the two-piece golf ball, but is it going to stick a green? Well, this one actually checks that one quite a bit. That's awesome. 106.1, that's just slightly below average. 160.2, so I actually did get average as far as distance. 148.4, and then it actually launched a little higher than my average. So again, all those are exactly what I would want a two-piece, softer golf ball to do. Launch a little higher than my average, but still come off the club really hot, get some good forgiveness, good consistency, and so far we are 2 of 2. So let's keep this train rolling. I'm going to go into the 5 hybrid now. Looking at the 5 hybrid, 4,331 spin, which again is awesome. That's definitely going to stick a green with my hybrid, which is, I love that. 117.6 for average, 195.4, which I gained 3 yards, 181.1, which I gained about 3.5 yards, and then 15.4, 14.4, really, really great there. So again, this is really, really good. Now, a lot of the time I feel like I'm burning through this really quick. Most of the time on these, you get mixed results. If the golf ball's not meant for my swing speed, sometimes the numbers just aren't really that consistent, or there's issues with them. So far, this has been really exactly what I would expect. Now, these numbers aren't blowing me away. There's a lot of two-piece golf balls I've tested where the Cut Red is a prime example. That's the current example on the channel that I tested, where the numbers, I gained 10 yards with every club, gained 5 mile an hour off every, what I mean? It was just crazy, but I still had those consistencies, which made it awesome. This golf ball isn't doing anything wrong. It's actually doing everything really well. It's just not blowing me away yet. So far it is a 3 out of 3. We're right on track to with what I would want. But I really hope it can really, you got to remember, it's at a high price point. So I really hope these driver numbers blow me away. Otherwise it might be hard to justify that. So let's go ahead and get into the driver. 2781, which is actually mid on the spin, which is great. 244, I gained 2 yards again. 133.3, I actually lost ball speed, which is kind of hilarious. And then 222.9, that's average. And then 14.7, which is a mid launch flight. So actually, I don't mind that at all. Those numbers are really, really consistent. The forgiveness was really, really consistent. It's again, none of these numbers are blowing me away, but gosh, it's so hard to not love a golf ball that just does as advertised. So let's go ahead and real quick before I get to my closing thoughts, let's go ahead and get into the durability real quick. Now, this unfortunately is where the golf ball does kind of get a knock against it. Looking at this golf ball, as you can see, this is after I washed it. This is not like fresh from being hit. This is after I washed the golf ball and scrubbed it a little. And as you can see, it is beat to heck. If you feel it, all kinds of scrapes. It feels like sandpaper, to be honest with you. I would not count on this having a true roll. I would not count on the flight being good. And this is after about 60 shots, 50 to 60 shots, somewhere in there. So maybe half a round. Unfortunately, that's all it's going to be. So that means going in to buy these golf balls, you're going to have to plan on switching them out. And if you're someone who says like, oh well, I would just use it anyway, that's fine, you can do that, but you are going to get less of a performance. These numbers aren't going to be as good anymore, so it is going to affect the overall performance numbers, how it flies, all that stuff. So really disappointing there. Srixon is kind of hit and miss on this. Sometimes they have really good durability numbers, and sometimes they have some lemons in there. But here, this is just abysmal. I have not had this bad of luck with durability with a golf ball on any of them I've tested. I've tested the Soft Feel and the Q-Star Divide, which is the matte, and then I've also tested the Q-Star Tour, which is just the regular. So this is definitely disappointing for sure. All right, so getting into my conclusion, guys, this review flew by because, again, it just kind of did everything it was supposed to do. It was everything as advertised. I didn't have to go in depth on a lot of stuff, which kind of puts me in a tough spot, believe it or not. You wouldn't think it would. If you're new to the channel, you might be like, well, Nick, you're talking about how it's consistent, it's doing everything, would you give it a recommendation? Sure, but here's where it gets tricky, right? I've reviewed a lot of golf balls. We're over 90 at this point. I think I'm at like 95 golf balls tested at this point. So I've been cranking them out. There's a lot of competition. Does this golf ball do what it's supposed to do? Absolutely. Does it have very good consistency, very good, performance numbers, making sure whether you hit it off the toe, whether you hit it off the inside, having that consistency, not getting a lot of side spin, really helping young, newer, and intermediate golfers just hit a nice, long, straight golf ball and shave strokes off their score. Yeah, it does all that stuff. But I have to get into these really nitty-gritty details when you've tested this many golf balls, because I've tested quite a few two-piece golf balls that do all that too. Some that actually go way further than that, and some that actually go way straighter than that, and some that have a lot more spin than that, and all kinds of different stuff, and some that are a lot less priced than this one. And so you kind of have to get into these gritty details. So, the short, easy answer is, well, yeah, I would recommend the golf ball. But the more complicated answer is there's a lot of two-piece golf balls that do this stuff really, really well, but don't cost as much. I think the $28 actually really hurts the golf ball for a dozen. If it had been more like 25, somewhere in there, that would have been more the sweet spot, because you got your Callaway like super soft, you got your Callaway, super hot, I think at $29.99, but it's 15 golf balls, so I would say that's a direct competitor. But the Callaway super hot, I had a lot better test results with, and I would recommend going with that one over this one. So yes, does everything it's supposed to. It's definitely not a bad golf ball. It's going to be in the mid-ranking when I do my top 100, and I finally count them all down. But I just wish it had a little more eye-popping somewhere in there. And the durability was definitely a big knock against it too, because it's only going to last you about half a round, unfortunately. So overall, guys, as always, keep watching, to keep saving, and keep learning. Until next time.